Do they do a like a rape kit on her to see if she was sexually assaulted during this autopsy?
That I don't know. And,
you know, I didn't know how to answer that question. So
yeah, I mean, I certainly would. I would certainly go all out. I would have our best forensic pathologist on the job. You know, with the coroner observing, and of course, and law enforcement personnel. So I think Mimi asked about who's present at the autopsy, who has to be there, and that would be the lead detective, any investigating officers, FBI, and of course the medical examiner. In this case, a coroner, and hopefully that forensic pathologist from Sheridan, Wyoming, would be there.
Brenner.
Yeah.
You know, again, if the lead detective is there, he's there for the reason of just actually visually seeing it, but also to ask you, hey, you know, we had this happen or something developed since we brought the decedent in. We would like you to check for this. So, right, isn't that kind of like the dialogue that could go back and forth between?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. You know, a lead detective could be at the autopsy and, you know, get a call on his phone. Oh, we just found that the main suspect is a right-handed, you know, et cetera, and now you're looking at left side injuries consistent with right side punch.
Right. Is there a checklist that goes in an autopsy? Is there, you know, checking for DNA under fingernails? Is that some of the things that the medical examiner does, or is that what the crime scene unit guys do?
Yeah, the medical examiner would collect any evidence from the body itself, and then, you know, and work closely with crime scene unit. That's the best way to do it, obviously. Like you mentioned, rape kit. Yes, it's always a good idea. There's no, we have no direct knowledge of anything that happened to this poor girl before her death. Some might say, oh, well, why bother doing a rape kit since this was her boyfriend, and therefore that she would already have,
right,
you know, his biologic material. But that's not why you do it.
Yeah.
Suppose a defense attorney said, well, my God, who's to say that this poor girl didn't wander off and get raped and brutalized by someone else entirely?
Right.
If you don't have the rape kit, you cannot disprove that theory.
So this is all part of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, so to speak, right? They want to, you know, leave no stone unturned here.
Sure. There's a protocol you follow for an autopsy. It's not a checklist, but it's a protocol of good practices.
Carrie Johnson asks in a super chat, would the family of Gabby have to view her body and identify her? I hope they didn't have to.
No. And that would not be, I mean, in this particular case, if what we're talking about is true, of scattered remains or et cetera, she would be identified by DNA, fingerprints, or I think is likely in this case, forensic odontology. All you need is her dental records, and then a dentist would do comparisons.
What type of hours wise, time wise, because people are like confused about going back and why the medical examiner came back to that location after the fact. Maybe some of your theories on that.
Sure. You know, I would do as little at the scene as possible. Um, my job was always to gather the remains and preserve the remains in their original state and document them, get them back so that the pathologist can do a good autopsy. And I'm sure Ed can speak to that. I think the only reason that the ME did go back, again, this is purely theory, but in a state like this, you would have some scattering of remains, would be likely. So therefore, they may have realized, you know, you have 200 and something bones. Maybe they were missing a piece of rib or something like that. And again, just theory based on where she was found.
How can they tell if the body and or broken bones were the cause of an animal or a cause of an injury by a person? That's a good question.
That's a great question. And the answer is anthropology. A good experienced forensic pathologist can tell you about the bite marks of animals, the tooth marks on bone. And a forensic anthropologist will be able to tell you everything about teeth marks, animal activity, tool marks, you know, what, like a cut of bone, what it was made by, a serrated blade, a machete, a chainsaw, etc. So yeah, that's a great question and a good, that's why I say it's got to be a forensic pathologist doing the autopsy, because they know how to look for those things. They're trained to look for that.
This will be for Barbara or Ed. How long does it take to get a full, like, how long will it take in this case for them to you know, give a cause, the cause of death, and perhaps their complete findings, if she wasn't poisoned, or how, you know, what was her cause of death? Could this take 6 or 8 weeks? Could this take a month? Could this take 10 days?
If they know it's a homicide, then they know probably a cause of death. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I can only surmise that they're not saying it because of the questioning potential when they do make the arrest, when they're able to make the arrest. That's all I can think of, because if you know it's a homicide, then you know certain things. You know, toxicology, I don't know. That could take 2 weeks, could take 3 weeks. What else could we be waiting for? Tissue, histology, that's not going to be a factor here.
Right. And you said early on when we first started out here some 35, 40 minutes ago that you feel that, you know, they probably already know what the cause of death is. All of the other reports and all the things that they're waiting on, I feel that, you know, it could be insignificant.
If you know it's a homicide, then you've probably got a pretty good idea of the cause of death. Ed, what do you think about this?
They're holding their cards close to their vest. They don't want to give away that part of the investigation, because at this point, their prime suspect, a person of interest, hasn't made a statement, and they haven't been able to interview them. So they don't want to give out that detail. That's why I think they didn't come out and say.
Kizzy Crawwell says, how do you gather a body to ensure it stays intact? Do you dig underneath that area where a body is located, or how do you move it without disturbing?
What I always did was lay out a tarp and bring it right to the edge of the body. And I didn't really dig underneath, but we would sort of, lift a little of the soil from beneath to make sure you got everything. And then just keep edging that tarp and sliding as best you could, the body, the remains, whatever. And then after we move that, then we do a search of the area underneath.
Okay. And search underneath would be for any trace evidence or anything that was that could be not seen to the naked eye and brought into the lab to look under the microscope and whatever, right?
Yeah, any type of evidence that could be under the body.
Okay. All right, let's address the elephant in the room, and because everyone's asking, where did you get a name like Barbara Butcher, and how do you have the nerve to be in this business?
Are you kidding? That's the best possible name. It was the best gift my daddy ever gave me.
Great freaking answer. I love that answer. That was great.
You know, I had a colleague once named John Slaughter. So I'd go to the scene, pull out my badge and say, "Hi, guys, Butcher and Slaughter."
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Talk about a good laugh at a tough job, right?
Hey, Barbara, tell them who your dad was.
Oh, my dad was Adam Butcher. He was a deputy inspector, NYPD.
A lot of things to talk about. You know, the federal arrest warrant, this is for the credit card use. We know, you and I both know, that's a tool to work with if and when this guy's found. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on the search on the West Coast in Florida? These guys have their hands full, and a lot of our cops are in danger going into those really nasty places where 75% is underwater. Any thoughts on that over there, and what do you think?
I know they're still searching for him over in those areas. I don't know if he's still there. Everything right now at this point would be speculation.
Right.
But they have to go through the paces here. They have to eliminate that area there that he was last seen in and where he left his vehicle in, and try to track him down there. But I think he's gone.
Yeah, I believe so too.